What's up, Airsoft fans? If you clicked on this video, chances are high you recently bought yourself a Wolverine MTW and eventually began upgrading it. Isn't this a great feeling? Spending lots of money and time building your individual dream Airsoft from a carefully selected range of parts, and then getting shot-to-shot consistency worse than on a $150 stock replica? Just when you thought your HopUp is perfectly adjusted, some BBs do not get enough hop, while others have a ridiculous amount of overhop. Very frustrating indeed. But let me tell you, you are not alone with this. As you probably know from watching my other videos, I'm into the HPA game for about a year now. During the last months, I went deep into the MTW topic, finding out which aftermarket parts will work best for me and what to look out for, especially when creating upgrade builds. I quickly learned that HopUp consistency seems to be one of the biggest issues of the MTW platform and somehow also for HPA in general. The Facebook MTW owners group and the German Airsoft Verzeichnis are full of reportings by people who experienced very similar to what you just saw in the intro. So, in this video, I would like to tell you what I found out about how you could prevent this. And the most important part you will need for this is, I could not believe this myself, a simple traditional HopUp bucking, which is on the market for more than 10 years now. The G&G Green, also known as cold-resistant HopUp bucking, is not only recommended by several shops, especially for HPA builds, but also has an excellent reputation among the MTW community.
G&G bucking just works. What can I say? Like, it's literally shooting lasers. Like, I don't know. I don't shoot for auto. Like, but I mean, it's extremely consistent. It's just so consistent.
Although this statement by fellow Airsoft YouTuber Kesslab is already 4 years old and was spoken in context of the Phoenix HopUp Chamber, I think the core message is still up to date. The G&G Green does one thing all the other modern flat top and Overhop style buckings cannot do. Let me briefly explain why. Every time the nozzle loads a BB into the HopUp bucking, it does so with a certain force or power. The problem is, this force is not equal all the time, but it changes due to various factors. One very important factor is the resistance the nozzle experiences from below by the BB string. You can test it yourself. A magazine, which is not loaded completely, will spit out the BBs with less power than a completely loaded mag, because the spring is compressed more. The higher this force from the BBs is, the more the nozzle is tilted, causing friction with all the other components. Listen to the different sounds the nozzle makes. You can actually hear when I tilt the nozzle inside the chamber. This also happens inside your replica, but in a much smaller extent, of course. Also, when inspecting your nozzle after a few hundred shots, you could notice some white BB traces on the downside, also an indicator of the certain force coming from below. So, we learned that the BBs pass the bucking lips and arrive inside the bucking with changing power, caused by changing resistance of the nozzle. The consequence of this was already explained by Rich from Wolverine in the very end of an older video. But it is one video every MTW owner should know about, in my opinion. The backspin is applied on the BB by the HopUp patch, which usually is more of a long flat shape on Overhops and, yeah, you guessed it, flat hops. The patch surface on those does not have to go that far down inside the barrel, as the BB gains the backspin from the complete surface of the patch. But what happens when the BB enters the bucking with changing loading force is that it has no fixed point to stop. With heavier loading force, it stops further behind before being shot, but when the loading force is less, it stops right at the beginning part of the patch. This is especially relevant for HPA builds, and in particular for the Inferno Gen 2, because the loading force is a lot higher here compared to, for example, an AEG. And this is where the G&G Green enters the game. As Rich already showed in this visualization, on traditional style bucking such as the G&G, where you just have a straight bar as a patch surface, the BB finds a defined spot where it hits the patch. It acts as a fixed stopper, so there's almost no tolerance for the BB to be placed incorrectly. And this is why the amount of backspin is way more likely as you want to have it, with no over and under hop occurring eventually. You may have noticed I avoided the term Midcap Syndrome so far. I did so because the changing loading force of the nozzle can be caused by the changing BB resistance of a midcap, yes. This is particularly visible as overhop with completely full mags, normal hop after a few shots, and underhop when the mag is almost empty. But it also could have other reasons, which I will explain to you later. First, let's see what will happen when using a typical R-hop style bucking in the MTW billet Unleashed. This one is the Bigatti MHP5, but I experienced the same behavior also on the Maple Leaf Mr. Hop and on the Airsoft Mutation LC bucking. When placing a BB inside in the uninstalled state, it's quite easy to imagine how incorrect placement in different sections of the patch could look like. Out there on the range, we find a very inconsistent performance. You can guess which is the preferred HopUp setting by the majority of BBs, but every now and then you have those weird over or under hop shots. For the second round, all we are going to change on the MTW is the G&G Green for the Bigatti R-hop style bucking. All the rest remains the same, even the Maple Leaf Omega tensioner, which is said to work quite well with the G&G bucking. Let's see if all the theory will prove its worth in actual shooting. And indeed, the BBs seem to hit the tree way more consistently, while the random underhop is completely gone. Still, there is some little vertical deviation, but this also could be explained by FPS inconsistency, for example. The overall consistency improved a lot by this small exchange, if you ask me. During my research, I also found this Reddit post by user Gido, who upgraded his MTW 308 into a DMR. He suffered from the very same problem with hop inconsistency, especially on higher energy outputs in the area of 2.4 joules with heavy BBs. What he found out was a significant improvement in terms of consistency by switching from the Inferno Gen 2 engine to the Reaper Gen 2 engine. I had a little conversation with him and wanted to try it myself. The idea is that the spring-powered loading mechanism of the closed-bolt Reaper leads to more consistency in terms of force than the air pressure-controlled loading mechanism of the open-bolt Inferno. So, for round 3, I only exchanged the engine. I think the results again speak for themselves. There is only one problem about this. The Reaper Gen 2 engine does not seem to be in production anymore. Obviously, Wolverine decided to set their focus on the Inferno, which is pretty sad in my eyes, especially when considering the performance comparison displayed here. Actually, there are even more ways to handle the BB placement issue. One more idea could be to increase the HopUp bucking lip tension, so the BB does not need the fixed stopping point of the traditional style patch anymore. The loading force will be controlled one step before, so to speak. As far as I know, there are 2 HopUp chambers available that would allow setting individual bucking lip tension. The Phoenix HopUp by Wolverine and Invictus, on which I have no first-hand experience, and the Silend Industries Alpha Chamber, which does it by using several rings of different inner diameters, so the bucking lips will be kept in shape when a BB passes. The correct tension would be just below the tension it needs to push the nozzle back into the engine manually when giving pressure on the BB, as you see here. In theory, this would allow you to use also R-hops and flat tops without the restrictions of bad BB placement, but I have to admit that my personal success rate of trying this is very limited. I feel it gets a little better by adjusting the lip tension, but it was no real game changer as the previous two ideas have been. In case of actual midcap syndrome, also choosing proper max could help. What I learned is that PTS EPMs, not the EPM ones, give you the most stable pressure curve from full to empty. For brand new max, it can help to store them fully loaded for a few days so the tension gets more moderate, but still enough for proper feeding. So, after 1 year of upgrading my two MTWs with many trials and even more errors, here are my 5 tips for you if you want to individualize your MTW by yourself. First, use the G&G Green Bucking for better BB placement. Second, exchange the Inferno Gen 2 engine for a Reaper Gen 2 engine, if you can get one, especially for high energy builds. Third, use quality magazines, for example PTS EPMs. Fourth, adjust the bucking lip tension in case you don't want to use traditional style buckings, for example by using the Silend Industries Alpha unit. And fifth, only upgrade the MTW if you are really not satisfied with its performance. I saw replicas that performed terrible out of the box, but others that did quite well and were absolutely competitive to use. Chances are high you are actually downgrading the performance in the first run, which also I actually did in the first weeks. Would you also like to tell me how your experiences with upgraded MTWs are? As always, I will read every single one of your comments and answer them, of course. So, see you in the comment section and have a good one.